Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to discuss the chaining problems and how they can be fixed. Chaining is used to select a number of entities when transforming existing entities or when creating a toolpath. The entities form a chain when the distance between two consecutive entity endpoints is less than the chaining tolerance, which is set to 1/10 in the system configuration. The process of selecting the profile of entities is called chaining. Chaining does several things. It selects and sequences the geometry used to control the machining path, sets the machining direction, and if the chain is closed, it sets the start point for the toolpath. Most of the 2D toolpaths involve moving a tool around a profile of entities called a chain. A chain can consist of wireframe geometry or the edges and faces of solid bodies. In most cases, this profile is closed, but sometimes the chain is not closed and is referred to as a partial chain. The most common chaining errors are caused by the following problems: small breaks or untrimmed entities, entities that do not lie in the same plane, duplicate entities, overlapping entities. It is not uncommon for wireframe drawings to contain errors that cause chaining problems. For example, two lines have been drawn where only one is needed. Very small gaps between entities may not even be visible at zoom extents. Good drawing practices, including the use of the auto cursor and trim functions, will avoid most problems. But even the most careful person makes mistakes. Therefore, it is a good practice to check the integrity of wireframe chains before starting to create toolpaths. Small breaks or untrimmed entities that are extended over the intersection point, can be avoided by using the auto cursor to ensure the entities connect. One way to find small breaks or untrimmed entities is using display endpoints from the Home tab. This function temporarily places a point at the end of each entity. Small gaps are often obvious as they appear as points that are noticeable brighter than others. Zooming in on these areas may reveal 2 points close together, one at the end of each entity, as you could see in the screenshots. The best way to fix these gaps or untrimmed entities is to trim the two entities using Trim to Entities command. Another type of break occurs when entities in the chain do not lie at the same depth. When viewed from the top, the chains appear to be continuous. Changing to an isometric view reveals one entity at a different Z value than the others. To fix the chain, you will have to use Transform Project command. Duplicate entities are identical entities that are created in the same plane and share the same endpoints, or for arcs, the same center and radius. You can configure Mastercam to automatically find and delete duplicate entities every time you open a file and provide an online summary of the types and number of duplicate entities that were deleted. This settings is on the File page of the System Configuration dialog box. Note that this option does not fix duplicate entities that you create in the geometry in the current session of Mastercam. To fix the chain, you should use Delete Duplicates command. Overlapping entities share only one endpoint with another entity and can be very difficult to detect. Consider, for example, the profile shown. It consists of 4 lines connecting points P1, P2, P3, and P4, and an extra line between the points P3 and P5. This line shares an endpoint with line 2 at P3. The other end of this line is not shared with any other entity. When Mastercam tries to chain this profile, chaining stops at P3. Mastercam reports the message branch point reached. Select next branch. Mastercam does not know if you want to follow the path along line 3 or along the extra line. The first indication that something is wrong is that chaining does not start and end where you expect it. Normally, chaining starts at the beginning of the selected entity. Shared endpoints cause chaining to start at the shared endpoint, regardless of where you click with the mouse. The second indication is the branch point reached message. Once you get used to how Mastercam works, you will notice when something does not work as you expected. Rather than ignoring these indications, take the time to look closer to find out why things are different and fix them. It is usually best to find and fix overlapping entities and other geometry problems before attempting to create toolpaths. A watertight model makes toolpath creation much easier. To open the C-hook directory, you can press Alt-C, or you can select Run Add-in command from the Home tab. Find and open the Find Overlap DLL in the directory, and then make a window and include all the entities that you want to check. If the geometry contains overlapping entities, the Find Overlap C-hook dialog opens, and you just need to click on the Cleanup button. If no overlaps are found, a message appears on the screen stating that. Next, I'm going to demonstrate how you can fix the chaining problems in Mastercam. The Analyze chain file, it's already opened. And the first thing that I'm going to check is where do I have problems on each of these chains. The easiest way to check for problems in the chaining is to hold down the Shift key and select the chain. I will select all of the 4th chains, and you can see where the chaining stops for each of them. I know that at those points I have problems that needs to be fixed. Without researching further, I'm just going to unselect all of them by clicking on the Clear Selection button. And I'm going to go into the Home tab and just select Delete Duplicates. It gives me a report that 2 lines were found to be duplicates, and the system automatically deletes them. I will again check the chains holding down the Shift key. I will just repeat the same selection. You can see this chain is already fixed. Something was also fixed here. It was showing with magenta colored, and one entity was deleted at that point. But we have other problems in that chain that needs to be fixed. I'm going to again clear the selection. And you can see where were the duplicates because the result color appears on the geometry. Next, I'm going to use the Find Overlap C-hook. And to open the C-hook, you can click on the Run Add-in or press Alt-C. This opens a directory with other C-hooks that are available in Mastercam. These are short programs done by a third party or by CNC software, and they are concentrated on doing a special function. Eventually, they could end up in the software if they get very popular. I am going to select Find Overlap.dll and just open it. The system prompts you to select the entities to check for overlap. I'm just going to make a big window around the geometry and then end the selection. And you can see the Find Overlap C-hook dialog box appears, which tells you that there are some issues. It also highlights the first overlapping entity. If you want to check, you can just go next. So you can see there was a smaller line that starts at the same endpoint with this line. I am not going to bother to go through the chain. I'm just going to click on Cleanup, and the system reports that 2 overlapping entities were deleted. I will accept that. And holding down the Shift key, I will just reselect this chain. And now you can see the problems are fixed for this chain. Again, I will unselect them. Currently, I have 2 chains that are fixed. Let's check this chain. I'm going to do a right mouse click and select the isometric view. Can you see how from the top the geometry looked okay, but the arc and the line are not created in the same plane as the rest of the geometry? I made this quite obvious, but the distance between the endpoints, remember, could be just slightly bigger than the 1/10. It could be 2/10, and the chaining will still not work. So once you fixed duplicate entities and overlapping entities, if you see that you still have a problem in the geometry, you can use the transform and project command to ensure that the entities are all lying at the same depth. I'm going to select the command, and I'm going to make a window around this chain, holding down the control key to ensure that I'm not grabbing anything else, and click on the opposite corner to select the chain and selection. Pay attention to don't leave the copy on, because that will create duplicate entities. You want to move entities. And we project all of them at Z0, so the depth is set up to 0 in the current construction plane that was already selected and is the top construction plane. Now I can just select the OK button to exit, and holding down the Shift key, I can check this chain. Everything looks okay. Unselect the chain and maybe get rid of the resolved color by doing a right mouse click and select the clear colors from the mini toolbar. The last chain has the trimming problems. So holding down the Shift key, I select that segment of the chain. If we zoom in a lot, might be still difficult to see it, but you can see one entity is not trimmed to the arc. This line, it's actually untrimmed. And the way you can fix this is using the trim to entities, which I can find it in the tools tab, but you can also find it in wireframe and trim to entities. Ensure here that the trim to entities method is selected, and then pick one entity. You can see it's slightly bigger here. You can see it's not stopping at the intersection. So you select the first entity where the chain stopped, but it included, and then the next entity that the chaining did not select. I'm just going to do a right mouse click and select fit to fit the geometry. I'm going to exit the trim to entities command. And then holding down the Shift key, I will reselect the chain. You can see the problem is now between the arc and the line. Again, we can zoom in, or we can just select trim to entities and make sure that the trim to entities method is on. And I will select the arc that was selected with the chaining, and then the line that the chain option did not select, and exit trim to entities. And again, holding down the Shift key, I'm selecting the chain. As you could see, right now it's fixed. And if I hold down the Shift key, I can select all the other 3 chains. They are all fixed, as you could see. And this concludes the video on chaining problems and how they can be fixed.